Welcome back. The Suncoast is home to a prestigious art school, a multi-campus community college, a branch of the University of South Florida, and one of the top-ranked liberal arts colleges in the country, New College, and that is our focus tonight. This fall, the college has 861 students enrolled. It boasts a 10-to-1 student ratio with an average class size of just 17. Now, the plan is to take that model and grow it. New College is asking the state legislature for more than $70 million to construct new buildings, hire more staff, and accommodate upwards of 1,200 students by the year 2020. Joining us for more on the plan to make that happen is New College's provost, Dr. Stephen Miles. He is also the vice president of academic affairs, and ABC 7 reporter Kate Flexter. Thank you both for joining us. How did this grow, and where did the idea come from?
Well, every June, the Board of Governors convenes a meeting where the different universities present their work plans for the year. I mean, this is something that happens every year in June, and there's, it's formal and it's ritualistic. Our president, Don O'Shea, made a point. He told them some things, of course, that they already know, which is that we have an outstanding academic record in terms of the number of the percentage of students who go on to get PhDs in the sciences. We rank 3rd in the country. Caltech, Harvey-Mudd are ahead of us. MIT comes right behind us. That says something about the quality of our education, the fact that we produce so many Fulbright winners and so forth. They know that. But what President O'Shea said was that for us to take another step forward in excellence, we need to address our residential experience. We need to address our 4-year graduation rate.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you mean by residential experience?
Well, we're a residential college, 4-year residential college. So the vast majority of our students live on campus. We have an excellent academic program, and a lot of the funds that we received have gone directly into that, into supporting that program. In terms of student life, it's not just a question of the quality of dorms, et cetera. It's also a question of programming, of what kind of services are offered to students. Some of that could be medical services, but also programming, club sports, the kinds of things that maybe 20 years ago our students didn't seem to desire, but now it's clear that we have to have a residential experience that's as vibrant as the academic experience. And we've hired some excellent new staff who are working with us on that. So we're thinking now, I think, in a more holistic way about the academics and the residential. Looking at the arts, for example, performing arts. On the one hand, it's academic. On the other hand, it makes a great contribution to residential experience.
And Kate, you spoke to students on campus. What was their reaction?
Well, I think the first reaction was just kind of a concern about losing the intimacy that New College is kind of known for. They have these really small classes, as I understand it, and for a lot of students, that's the reason they chose New College. But after they kind of thought about it a little more, some of the students I talked to thought that it could really bring some benefits to the campus.
And where did the idea go from President O'Shea in terms of what was the reaction within not only staff but faculty?
Well, I think everyone recognized this as a tremendous opportunity and one that we could not let pass by. And let me just make it clear that President O'Shea spoke in terms of the need to lift our 4-year graduation rate, which is at 57% is still the 3rd highest in the SUS, but we want it to be more like 80%. He talked about that, and he also said that increasing our student enrollment to 1,200 would be part of that. In other words, it's not just a matter of improving the graduation rate and then getting larger. Size actually is relevant to this in terms of the residential experience. We were talking a little bit earlier about large schools versus small schools. At 850 students, 860 students, we are something of an outlier. There are some smaller schools out there, but most of the schools, most of the leading liberal arts colleges are at least 1,500, 1,200, 1,500. Haverford's a little over that.
And we want to jump into more of that in just a moment. We're going to just take on more of the plans to expand New College coming up, and when we return, we'll have a full look at our weather forecast. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, we are discussing the plans to grow New College of Florida by nearly 40% by 2022. Our guests tonight are New College Provost Dr. Stephen Miles and ABC 7 reporter Kate Flexter. Kate, let me ask you this. You also talked to faculty out there. Was there any concern about class size and what that would entail?
I don't think so. I think that's because they plan to maintain the same student-to-faculty ratio, so they don't really feel like anything will be lost in that sense. They also really think that it could be a benefit because they could add depth to some existing departments, and you know, the example that was given was, I think, biology,
Sure.
in the sense that you could have, you know, a lot of different facets of biology as opposed to just the few that exist right now for a new college.
And would there be any other expansion in terms of the number of majors?
That's not the plan, at least not right off the bat. You know, we would be phasing in the new faculty over a period of 3 years, and some of the faculty would be placed in disciplines or in programs where we are especially crunched, if you will. And in the sciences, that comes into play, biology being an example. But one of the great advantages of this proposal, as it's been framed, of adding 40 faculty over 3 years, is that we will be able to think both about immediate needs and long-range needs. Liberal arts education is both about preparing students to enter the society that awaits them immediately after graduation, but it's also about giving them the perspective and the skills for a whole lifetime of their careers and of their service in the community. We need classics. We need fields that might not immediately seem like they're the most pressing, but we have the opportunity now to enrich this liberal arts college so that for 1,200 students, we'll be able to offer greater depth than we've ever been able before.
Well, let's ask the $70 million question, because you're asking the state legislature for $70 million to make this happen at a time when there has not been a great increase in terms of state spending. So, number one, politically, how do you get there? I know that you're asking the Board of Governors. What happens next?
Well, first of all, the Board of Governors invited us to make this proposal. That's one of the things that's very striking. When we back in June, when we presented our work plan and President O'Shea outlined kind of the things that we needed, there was a spontaneous outbreak of support in the Strategic Planning Committee, where people said things like, well, you know, I don't think that you're funded adequately for your mission. We want you to put together a proposal. What would it take to make New College the best liberal arts college it possibly could be, to be the shining star? How often does the Board of Governors say that to an institution? So we went back and we immediately convened meetings with the faculty and with the staff. Students were not around because it was in the summer, but we also had meetings with them in the fall.
Right, but you would, you know, again, you would need the cooperation of the state legislature
Sure.
and the governor, and I would imagine you've hired lobbyists to help with that. But where does that are you getting kind of any sense whether this is going to fly in the legislature?
I think well, I'll go back to one of the reasons why the Board of Governors was in favor of this. As you know, we're in a system in which we are the outlier. We are the tiny, tiny unit when we're in the same system with University of Central Florida, with Florida State, with UF. University of Florida and Florida State University have received millions of dollars that would support them for preeminence, that is, to move higher in the rankings, the national rankings, U.S. News and World Report particularly, judged against other public institutions, and in the case of UF, against all institutions. There was the realization on the part of the Board of Governors that New College is small, but is already ranked as one of the top liberal arts colleges in the country, public liberal arts colleges. An investment of, and while you mentioned 70 million, that would be a total figure, only about less than 14 million would be recurring. But for that kind of investment, the return for the state would not only be greater preeminence for New College, but also the greater likelihood with more graduates of them staying in Sarasota and staying in Florida.
And so I'd imagine that's how you are going about the campaign to get help from the legislature. Kate, folks who are thinking about sending their kids to New College may wonder if this is going to also result in increased tuition rates and costs.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, a lot of the students that I talked to mentioned kind of what you were saying about it sort of being an investment. And I think that, you know, these students that are currently there, I talked to a lot of seniors that are graduating and they are not going to really reap the benefits of this, but they sort of are, because, you know, as they go on and they go out in the world, their education means something, and I feel that about my alma mater as well, in the sense that, you know, they want to be proud to say that they went to New College, and I think that it is sort of an investment for current New College students in that sense as well.
Are we also dealing with a situation like many schools, many businesses, that either you grow or you shrink?
Well, I think that, as President O'Shea has articulated, we cannot achieve our maximum excellence without growth. It's necessary. Now, simply growing is not enough, but we've done the analysis to know that one of the things that really holds us back in terms of that four-year graduation rate is our residential experience. For far too long, we left it to be kind of a do-it-yourself thing, where, you know, students would build up projects, then a student would graduate, there would go that project. So we're taking that more seriously. But I wanted to come back to something that you were talking about, Kate, in terms of asking students, would they feel like they're going to lose some of the intimacy? I want to talk about why that 10-to-1 student-faculty ratio is so important. It's not, I mean, even though it does result in small classes, the most important part of that is the faculty attention through advising. At large schools, there is a professional advisor corps, all right, who are primarily, they're assigned with making sure the students take the right courses, et cetera. At New College, the academic advising is handled by faculty. It's real mentoring. So when while it's great that you would have a class with only 10 students or 12 students, and that provides all that space and time for discussion, what really makes the difference in students' lives is that a faculty member gets to know them and is guiding them in making the decisions for their future. You cannot replace that with simply having staff advisors. So for us, it's a holistic form of education that's very much focused on the individual needs of students.
You know, you said that in some ways New College is an outlier in terms of how small it is, but have there been other examples of maybe moderately bigger liberal arts schools around the country making the same kind of expansion and having that be successful? Well,
various universities have established what they call their honors programs or honors colleges, which is one way to do it. I think the intimacy, though, of what we provide in the way of that faculty-student interaction simply isn't replicated elsewhere. For New College students, if you talk to the alums, because I know you visited the campus, you talk to students who are currently there, what's really striking is that students of every generation at New College talk about the same thing. They talk about a faculty member who really paid attention. They talked about a faculty member who was demanding. They talked about a faculty member who gave them the platform from which to succeed.
Let me ask you one more question here. You talked about 1,200 as almost a magic number in terms of student enrollment. Where does that come from? Why is that number in particular so important?
Well, it's looking again at an analysis of other liberal arts colleges. Now, President O'Shea would argue that maybe 1,600 would be an even better number, but 1,200 is something that we can achieve with confidence, and that we can absorb that number of new faculty and those resources over a 3-year period. Will we grow to 1,600 at some point? Possibly. But what won't change is the character of a New College education. That's really what we're all about.
And we only have a minute left, but you know, we did a show just a few weeks ago with the president and other administrators from other schools around here talking about all the schools sharing assets and sharing classes. Kate, I don't know if you can answer this, but will this be affected by the expansion plan?
They did mention that they would be working with other schools, and that other local schools would benefit from this just as much as New College would. So I think there would be that kind of mutual benefit.
Right. Okay, that's the consortium of colleges. We have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll have final thoughts from our guests, plus what some of our viewers are saying about the protests against Donald Trump. Welcome back. How will growth change the New College of Florida, which has been a hallmark on the Suncoast for more than 50 years? Our guests join us now for final thoughts. And that is the question. How will this planned growth change what really is one of the jewels of higher education in our area?
Well, it is key that the 10-to-1 student-faculty ratio is unquestioned by the Board of Governors. That's not an issue. That's really fundamental. The additional facilities will be crucial. But I guess what I'd also add for your viewers is that a slightly larger new college will also be great for this community. We were talking a little bit at the break about the consortium of colleges on the Creative Coast. There is so much that's happening right now with an expanding educational sector in this community. New College is in a position to contribute substantially to that. And we just received the grant from the Andrew Mellon Foundation that's going to be supporting the arts and the humanities and the C4.
Keith, did you find really any real trepidation about this?
I mean, I think the only trepidation that I ran into was the concern that, you know, of losing that intimate feel. And I keep reiterating that because that was the concern. But I think that people who kind of looked into it further realized some of the benefits of, you know, having a diverse campus in the sense of student body and opportunity.
And when we're really developing quite a niche in our area in terms of liberal arts education, I'm not sure there's any other region around Florida that has this many schools cooperating with each other in this sort of way.
It's 20,000 students when you add them all up. That's a huge number of students in what President O'Shea would refer to as a multiversity. So there's, I think that the whole community is going to benefit tremendously from this.
And I would imagine there's also a trickle down in terms of the greater community of Sarasota and the Suncoast in terms of bringing in new jobs, new people, and it's probably good for everyone.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you very much, both of you. But before we go, we want to share with you what some of our viewers are saying about a story that broke over the weekend. On Saturday, hundreds of protesters flooded the streets of downtown Sarasota to show their concern over the election of Donald Trump. Some weren't even old enough to vote, but they say this was a way to have their voices heard. And here is what some of you are saying. Debbie Gillespie writes, "You're causing a scene and chaos in your own community. Not a difference. Trump is president-elect. Deal with it, like we have had to deal with others for years." Gail Williams writes, "Like I said to another friend, you'll get over it. I did 4 years ago and 4 years before that. I know it's not easy. It wasn't easy for me either, but I just continue to live my life hoping the next president will undo all the damage that was done. And look, it all came true." And Christy Cave writes, "I don't think the protesters are unhappy that the Republican Party won, but are unhappy that a candidate who made so many vile and hateful comments about so many sectors of this great country won. Had Rubio, Kasich, Bush won, I believe it would be different." Well, if you'd like to join the conversation about tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/news@7. I want to thank our past want to watch our past roundtables. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. I want to thank both our guests for being here tonight. Dr. Stephen Miles is Provost and Vice President of Academic Affairs at New College of Florida, and Kate Flexter is a reporter who has been covering the story for ABC7.